It is a lovely grammar morning today on IELTS Energy. Hi.
Hi, a lovely grammar morning to you, Jessica. How are you?
Top of the grammar morning to you, my lady. Guys, we worked really hard planning this episode to make sure we got all of these little grammar rules correct because we get questions all the time about how to use these quantifiers, how to use amount and quantity and all of this stuff. It's tough.
It is tough, especially because you will hear native speakers make errors with these. And so that makes it a little trickier if you can't always trust what native speakers say in spoken English, right? When we are speaking formally or writing, then we are more careful. But often, just
Yeah.
in day to day conversation, even on podcast, TV, you will hear errors with these words, which makes it harder.
Totally. Not so much with the easy quantifiers like much, many, and a lot. Native speakers pretty much have those down because they're easy. We use them all the time. But I did notice with my own son that much and many was one of the later grammar rules that he acquired.
Hmm.
Even up until age like 10, I'm gonna say he was still using much and many with in the wrong way sometimes. So
Yeah.
don't feel bad. It does take a while to get this in your head.
Exactly, the twins still make mistakes, and I struggle sometimes, like, should I correct them or should I just
Yeah,
leave it be?
I know.
Sometimes I'll do the strategy where I just say it back correctly and hope they absorb
Me
it like a
too.
sponge. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, me too. He didn't always repeat it back correctly, so I don't know if it worked, but he uses them correctly now. So maybe it did work. So guys, we're going to talk about the first of all the easy ones, much, many, and a lot. And then we'll get into the more advanced quantifiers that you have to use, especially in academic writing task one, but really all over the exam. We should be using synonyms instead of just saying a lot.
Absolutely, this is a mistake I hear students make a lot, right? You're going to hear repetition of many, tons, a lot, like, there's just so many times that we use these that you can't help but repeat if you haven't learned many different ways to say this. So this is going to be extremely helpful today. I guarantee you're going to need this on IELTS speaking and writing.
And this is really a follow-up episode, guys, to last week's episode 1340, increase grammar scores with uncountable nouns. So, if you missed that, you don't have to go back and listen now, but definitely after this episode, guys, scroll up and listen to 1340 immediately because that will really help cement some of the rules we talk about today and add to this knowledge of countable and uncountable nouns.
Yes, and if you did miss it, hit follow because that means you're likely missing a lot of episodes. We have
Yeah.
2 new episodes every week, so hit follow right here on the podcast so that you never miss any of this great IELTS information.
All right, fantastic. So first, the more basic rules that it's okay if you still make mistakes. Lots of people do, but these basic rules we want to get correct on IELTS because they really affect your grammar score if you mess up these sort of fundamental rules. So, much we use with uncountable nouns. Right. We often use them in negative sentences and questions, though. If you're if you're expressing an uncountable noun in a positive sentence, we say a lot. So this is where much gets confusing. Okay. So for example, let's take the word money, right? Uncountable. I could say, I don't have much money. It's negative. I could use it in a question. Do you have much money right now? But in an affirmative sentence, I would have to say a lot, right? I have a lot of money, not I have much money. That sounds weird.
Yes, that's what makes this so tricky, right? These are kind of strange rules to keep track of. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then with many, we use this with plural countable nouns. So this is a mistake we'll often hear students make. If you need to say like, I don't have many family members that I like to hang out with socially, we would instead hear much, right? I don't have
Yeah.
much family members. If it's a countable noun, you have to use many instead of much.
Nice. And then here's the easy one, guys. A lot of. We use with everything all the time. Questions, negatives, positives, we use a lot of all the time. So if you're ever in doubt of whether to use much or many, just use a lot of because it'll always be correct. Okay, let's get into some more complicated words, guys. These phrases will definitely score more highly than much and many on the exam. So we've sort of organized these into phrases we can use with uncountable nouns and phrases we can use with countable nouns. So remember, guys, do listen to IELTS Energy 1340 because there we do talk more about uncountable nouns. All right, let's get into it. So, what are some phrases we can use with uncountable nouns, Aubrey?
Yeah, the first is a great deal of. And this is where it's important. If you don't want to have to say a lot of over and over, learn a few of these, right? A great deal of is for uncountable nouns like a great deal of information or a great deal of evidence or research.
And I do hear this one used incorrectly. Like I hear native speakers use this with plural nouns, plural countable nouns. All of these guys, you're going to hear people mix up for sure just in daily speech, but a great deal of is best with uncountable nouns, right? So let's say, for example, you're asked about holidays on the speaking test. This could happen in part one or part two or part three. We could say a great deal of anticipation is always felt during this time of year. So, in that last episode last week, where we talked about uncountable nouns, we said that feelings, right? You can't count feelings. So, those are uncountable. Anticipation is a feeling. So, a great deal of anticipation, which means you are looking forward to something, is always felt during this time of year. That's a great sample sentence.
Thank you. Okay, our next one is a huge amount of, or just, amount of. This is also uncountable. Just like Jessica said, we hear even native speakers make mistakes. You might hear the amount of people, right? But this should be with uncountable, like research. A huge amount of research was performed, or anger. He felt a huge amount of anger. These are uncountable nouns. Feelings, here's a good example. The amount of money spent on food alone is staggering. If you're asked about an
Ooh,
event and they were catering, this is a great word to use, that it was staggering.
yeah, there's an IELTS part 3 question about, like, how much money do people spend on weddings in your country, because some countries do
Mm.
like, it is traditional and kind of mandatory, according to your level of society that you spend so much money on weddings, and that's a great example, right? And a huge amount of money is spent on food alone. And yeah, this is also applicable just to questions about daily lives and budgeting. I know Aubrey and I have talked a lot about the amount we spend on groceries lately. So that's a great sentence for any time.
Absolutely, right? Exorbitant amounts of money are spent on groceries each month.
Every week. Okay. And here's a lovely example sentence with much. Again, guys, we are providing sample sentences you could use to talk about holidays, right? Because we just had a big holiday and common IELTS topic. So here's another example. Much concern is felt over planning entertaining activities. Nice. Now, that is more formal. You'll notice that it is an affirmative sentence. And we just told you that you're not supposed to use much in affirmative sentences, but this is a very formal construction, right?
Right,
Much
exactly.
concern, much anger. So I'm going to say we break that rule in very formal ways of communicating about feelings and emotions because we do, and it is correct grammatically.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? With any emotion, much anticipation was
Yep.
felt. You'll often hear that in the passive voice like that. This is
Mhm.
very high level. Examiners will be impressed if you're able to use it in this way.
All right, now some phrases for countable plural nouns. Again, guys, all of the phrases today are great for academic writing task one because you're writing about numbers most of the time. But again, we are saying that you should be using these all over the speaking and writing tests. And our example sentences today are for the holidays. All right. So, first one, a number of people, a number of individuals. Remember, people is a group noun like children, a number of news stories. Um, the next phrase is a multitude of. I used this in Tuesday's episode, guys. Go back and listen to the sample answer episode from Tuesday.
Yeah, so for that first one, you could say a large number of people attend the festivities every year. So, like Jessica mentioned, you're definitely going to use this if you're writing an academic task one essay to describe numbers, but also these can be used all over the speaking exam, right? A large number of people attended. And then for a multitude of businesses sponsored the event this year. So, you're adding this higher level impressive vocabulary, even when you're describing a holiday in your town.
Yeah, totally. If asked how people celebrate holidays in your country, right? A multitude of individuals still spend huge amounts of money.
Nice. Both in one
Huge
sentence.
amounts of money on Christmas presents.
Exactly, I love it. I love when we're able to get 2 of them in 1 sentence. That's impressive, guys.
We're kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
We're kind of amazing here on IELTS Energy, and you guys are too for listening, by the
yes,
way. You guys are also a big deal. All right, now
absolutely.
2 more phrases, guys. A quantity of and a plethora of. Both of those are used with countable plural nouns.
Yeah, so you might say a quantity of individuals showed up late, right? And you're just saying that a large number of individuals showed up late.
We could say there are a quantity of disadvantages to taking time off for the holidays,
Mm,
like losing out on salary, possibly, or losing momentum in school. However, I am still of the opinion that we all need to take a break and celebrate with our families.
amazing. Impressive example sentence. If you guys are watching on YouTube, whenever we have to come up with one on the fly, we're like looking around. It's funny how you like can't look
Yeah.
straight at the camera when coming up with an example. I'm the
I
same.
I don't know what my thinking face is like, guys. Tell me in the YouTube comments what
Yes.
you think of our thinking faces when we're coming up with examples.
Looking all
By
over.
the way, I just hung up a little Army of Darkness poster next to my desk. So that's kind of
That's
what
what you
I'm
look
looking
at?
at when I'm thinking of
I love
examples.
that. That's amazing. All right, last
All
one,
right.
guys,
Yep.
is a plethora of tricky grammar, but oh, band 9 if you can use this, right? We use it with countable nouns, a plethora of people, a plethora of choices. If you're talking about a holiday event, a plethora of activities are always available.
Yes, awesome. Now, guys, we want you to give us your sample answers using today's number vocabulary. So, there are a few ways you can get your ideas to us. You can write support at allearsenglish.com to send us an email. You can comment on this video on our YouTube channel, IELTS Energy TV. You can put your example sentences in a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. So show us your example sentences, guys. Give us that Christmas gift, a belated Christmas gift of showing us your sentences.
Yes, and of a review, right? I love reading the reviews. That is the best gift you guys could give us. Go right now and leave
Yes.
us a review for the podcast.
Awesome. All right, everyone. We'll be back next week. Enjoy your weekend.
Awesome. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.